Okay, so I'm recording now. So if
Okay.
if you can do a small introduction, that would be good for the people.
Okay, so my name is John Stokes. I come from Ireland, originally from Dublin, the capital city. I grew up there in a very different time. It was very Catholic at that stage, it was very monocultural. The 60s never really hit Ireland.
Mm.
Yeah, so all through the 60s, which is when I was growing up, it was very monocultural, very much the Catholic Church in control.
So you never had a hallucinogenic awakening in Ireland?
No, not personally. It did come a bit later,
Okay.
maybe, early 70s. But though that stuff didn't hit Ireland in the 60s.
Is there a reason for that, or is it
The
just the
power of
church's
the
influence,
church,
or?
really. The church had everything in its grip,
Mm.
and they didn't relax that. They weren't going to relax that yet.
Yeah, and they're not big fans of mind-opening substances and whatnot.
No, they're not. They're big fans of mind control.
Right. Fair enough. And would you say that
Yeah.
that has changed since or in recent times at all?
Everything has changed, yeah, and it's gone into another zone completely. So, that's a big journey. Ireland has made a big journey, and it's not, out of the clutches of the Catholic Church. That sounds great. There was a period when things loosened up, and there was a lot of creative thinking, a lot of possibility, a lot of potential. But that was quickly usurped by other powers, by the economic powers, by the EU,
Mm-hmm.
by the forces of control, just a different form. So the Catholic Church was no longer doing the policing. And so it just morphed into a
It's
different.
it's different arms of the same octopus, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, that's how I came to see it at some point, was that the control structure is essentially one. It's a unity in and of itself, and you know it has very clear agenda when you look into it, and it's like the control structure. What it is to me is not intentionally like self evil. It's not like that. It's just like it has something that it needs and wants, and it is very good at getting that. And the
that's right.
humans, we're very gullible. we're very manipulable, malleable, and also we're creator beings as well. So like, if you're going to try to control a creator being, you have to get up inside the thought structure, obviously, and start getting them to believe things. Otherwise, they'll be like, "Fuck you, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm creating whatever I want to."
Yes, yes, yeah.
So like, I
It's a
went.
fascinating stuff.
It is. I went through personally like a little. I went through like the grieving process in a sense for that whole control structure, because like it felt at first that it was something there, like there was something there, there was something grand and majestic, and then I came to this sort of seeing that it wasn't anything grand or majestic. It was just a means to an end, like it's just a loosh harvesting festival essentially. And not to say that there's nothing in religion. There is there are songs, and it makes us who we are dealing with the adversity. But at some point you come out the other side and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I see what that was.
Yes, yes, yes. The cross, it's one of the big symbols, and it's very interesting because the cross is actually the cube, the
Mm-hmm.
cube unfolded. It's the cross of matter. And, in this frame of reference, we are on the cross of matter. And
Mm-hmm.
that takes you to the ultimate point of dying. You have to die if you're going to go beyond the limitations of 3D.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit in your own understanding what that means? Because
Sure.
There are
So,
lots
so
of
my
deaths, right?
good. My journey started with the death of my brother.
Mm-hmm.
Was 4 years younger than me, and he took his own life after my father died. So it all happened. My father died on a Monday, and my brother died on a Friday. It was the same week.
Oh wow.
When my brother died, it opened me up instantly. So before that point, I was very certain about everything. I knew exactly what everything was. I was very argumentative. I was very rigid in my thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly, something came into my experience that I couldn't just explain, I couldn't know anything about. So it was a doorway that opened up. And that led me to much deeper experiences of life.
Hmm.
After some time, it took me to a what I would call a death state. So I literally died. I mean, the experience for me was that I was dying.
And
And that
would you say this was a grief process mainly, or was it something different?
grief was part of it. Grief was what happened in the early stages, and the grief was immensely powerful. That kicked in immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So the minute I heard that my brother had died, I suddenly was in an ocean of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And it was instant, and there was no way that I could just switch it off. It was something I had to deal with. I had to learn to navigate. I had to learn to swim in it. I had to learn to find some oxygen in it, and I had to keep going.
Right.
But after some years of navigating through that, I hit another point, and that was when I had to let go of the grief. That was really the hardest point. While I was in the grief, there was a lot of motivation to just deal with it, to keep going, because it was very difficult. I had to. I had to stay in the moment. I had to stay present. But then suddenly I was out of that zone and I was into somewhere else that was completely uncharted for me.
Mm.
To navigate that was a completely different thing. I was lost. I had no compass.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. And was this the first time you had felt that feeling of kind of like airiness, just floating around, not knowing what's going on?
This was the deepest that I had ever gone with it. You know, it
Mm.
took me beyond anything that I had ever known, and it culminated maybe 5 years after Brendan's death. It took me to a very, very intense passage that I spoke of where I died. My body died. It was the end. It was as though I was going crazy. I lost my frame of reference for everything. I lost my sense of relationship with everybody. And it was something that was kind of bubbling up for a while, and I would push it down. It was too scary.
Mm-hmm.
Kept on trying to pull myself together. I kept on trying to be responsible. I felt it. I owed it to my family. I owed it to the people who loved me to to be okay. And that
Right.
the alternative was that I would go crazy.
Can you explain a little bit what you mean by I died physically? Because I'm trying to framework that. Like, were you uh, in the awake aware state and you actually had like a physical death and then sort of came back, or did you transition to the dream state, which is this, or like what exactly? How would you frame that?
Okay. So it was a gradual process, and what it felt like was that all energy was just leaving me. There was no life was dwindling.
Mm-hmm.
There was no life force. You know, to move around became very, very difficult. There was no spark. I was just gradually fading. That was the experience in my consciousness. And it
Mm.
felt like I was just disappearing from this realm of consciousness.
And did you fight that at all, or did you kind of feel like, well, this is just what it is, and I'm gonna go with it?
In the beginning, I fought it. In the beginning, I got myself out jogging and tried to pull my energy back here.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried that for a while, but it just wasn't working. And gradually, it dawned on me very clearly that it wasn't working and it wasn't going to work. There was no question about it.
And did you have like a surrender moment at some point?
yes, then the force of that pull got stronger and stronger, and I just realized I have to go with it. If I'm going to go crazy, I'm going to go crazy. If I'm going to die, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to die.
Yeah.
And I just had to go with it. There was no other choice.
Yeah. Yeah, that I've had the going crazy feeling. Um, Mine was associated with my smoking weed experience in my early 20s, which was very super traumatic for me, but the
Mm,
feeling of going crazy, I can't even really frame that in terms of like how psychiatrically it would be defined nowadays. The feeling that I
yeah,
felt of going crazy, because it didn't have anything to do with like normal life. It was not relevant to normal life. It was not relevant to like what normal people do when they like wake up and then think, oh, well, I'm gonna do such and so during my day and blah blah blah. Right? It had
yeah,
nothing. It had no relevance to that, and it was more just like an overwhelming existential angst just for existing. Period. Like that's what my going crazy was just like I could not manage anymore whatever this body mind spirit combination had come to. I couldn't manage. I couldn't be in it anymore. It was too painful.
yes,
And I think that's what I had. You know, I had a series of sort of awakenings also due to just the trauma of like realizing that I existed in the first place, and it was bad because I only had to reference, you know, or try to rationalize my existence. I only had the church. The church is bullshit, and that does not make you feel good. That says like you don't deserve to exist, you know. So like I didn't have a lot of, and I hadn't found myself. I hadn't found my own center, so I went straight to the bottom. I went to the dark night, screaming terror, just like immediately.
mm,
But it is it's a purging, cleansing, purifying fire that
with it.
if you aren't consumed, then what comes out the other side is like it's some sort of purity.
Yes, yes, everything that's not you has to leave you at that point
Mm-hmm.
because it burns hot. It
Yeah,
really clears
yeah. It's
everything.
and there's no warning for that type of thing. Like
That's right. There's no preparation, there's no warning. I had none. At that time, this was about 1984 when this happened for me. And I had very little connection with anybody who had any knowledge about that, what it meant, what it was.
mm-hmm.
So it was very much an exploration of a new space. And as I said, it wasn't death, it was totally a death.
Yeah, yeah, and the thing about it for me that for the thing that I realized in my experience that was part of the trauma, it was part of this, this ego death thing, was I realized that the charted part of the existence is a speck. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's literally like one billionth or something of the existence, the charted part, like the recorded, the yes, we have tradition, this is, when you fall and stub your toe, there's this sort of routine that you can do to help alleviate that thing. That
That's
part
right.
is so tiny. Yeah.
That's right.
And like that's the mind-blowing part, that you just, it's the floating feeling that you're talking about, because you're just like, it's just poof, and
Yes.
there's nothing else to do or say about it, because there's no reference.
Yeah. It's a vast expanse, and suddenly it's all you.
Yeah.
It's not like something you're even traveling through. It's you. It feels like you. It feels like it's who you are.
Right. And it goes from the traumatic, the thing that was having you feel so bad, right, is also seen to be a part of that little speck or the
That's
known,
right.
right?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
And then you
Mm,
come out and it's like, oh, like there's so much more than my set of worries that, like it just becomes silly at a point, and you're like, okay, well, I guess I don't need to worry about that anymore.
That's right. That's right. It's the big picture. The frame changes completely. Everything that seemed to be in opposition to everything else, suddenly it's not in opposition. It's all in this glorious balance,
Mm-hmm.
and there are no limits to it. It's just infinite. You travel, you see, you look, and there's more. There's infinitely more.
Yeah, and for me to see that there wasn't this overseer, this like vengeful
Yeah.
deity creature, for me to finally see that, because you have to search for that. I had to search, I had to like look. Where is he? Somewhere? Is he over there? Is he over there? And I never found him, or I never found it. I'm not saying
Yeah.
there isn't the presence that is sort of not myself. There isn't. I'm not saying there isn't the larger
Yeah.
divine aspect. It's just that it has no relation also to the way it's been portrayed, and it's like
That's
endlessly allowing of you to be yourself, as opposed to
yes.
everything that you were taught. Right.
Yeah. That's it. It's a grand experiment in being yourself. That's what
Yeah.
it's all about. The more you become yourself, the more you aid life, the more you allow life.
Yep. And when someone comes into that, um, they're helped. Like you are helped.
Oh yeah.
And the sort of negative aspects, like the monsters, the boogie monsters, the demons, and they don't go away. Like they're still around. They're trying to harass,
Oh,
but when you have come into sort of a different spot of power in yourself, then you see them just as like it's just a part of the movement. Like if something's attacking me in my sleep and it's trying to like freeze my whole consciousness, then instead of like being scared, I sit there, I start dancing with it, because like what else are you gonna do? Like there are so many possibilities for interaction that like I can't discriminate very well.
yes, it's all a journey. It's all a navigation after that. But suddenly, after that moment, you have a very powerful compass and you have a way to face whatever comes. You realize that whatever is coming at you, if you go deeper in you, nothing is bigger than you.
Right.
There's nothing can possibly be bigger than you. So therefore, there is nothing that you need to fear, and fear is never the healthy response.
Right. And you also come to this spot where you can act as caretaker for other parts of consciousness that are sharing the space with you, right? So like
That's right.
you can, if something is stuck in negativity and judgment and fear, you can, by your just simple way of interacting with them, they will feel through you that they don't have to stay stuck in that. Like nobody has to stay stuck in that loop forever. There's always some way to come out of it.
Yes, that's a beautiful way to express it. It's the compassion and the heart that really opens that door. If you close the door, if you sit in the judgment, nothing happens.
Right.
Everything stays the same. But when you feel that compassion, when you feel that connection, then there's the infinite possibility for change.
Yep. And the funny thing also for me was that the judgment, uh, it was always self-imposed, and it never was something that was coming later. Like that was the huge joke as far as the organized religion was concerned. Was it was always like this thing is gonna come on later. All your sins are gonna add up, and then you're gonna you're gonna pay at some point. And it was just funny to me that's like it doesn't add up, and you pay fucking like immediately. You do something mean or you do something bad, and you're paying with this feeling that it creates inside of you. It creates like this feeling space of judging someone else. It's literally like you're creating a black hole inside of yourself in a sense, and it sucks all of your internals into itself.
Yeah, that's right.
And
And
that's the
it keeps
payment that
pushing
it's
it
not coming
more and
later. Like it's not, yeah, it's not coming later.
more. Yeah, it's a whole dynamic. And once you shift that, once you move into a different way of being, everything changes.
Do you have other siblings, or he was your only brother?
So I have, originally in the family, there were five. I have one brother and one sister alive.
Mm.
I had two brothers, three brothers altogether, one sister. Two brothers died. Two brothers took their own lives at different times.
Wow.
So then my older brother took his life about maybe 8 years ago.
Mm. I've never been that close to a suicide, so I don't personally know like how that would feel, but I can certainly empathize with like the heavy parts are very heavy. There's no joking about that.
Yeah, there was huge devastation, but at the same time, everything changed. My whole worldview changed. The door to the astral dimensions opened. I was in a new zone completely. So there was immense grief. I was crying every day. But there was also this new connection with a deeper aspect of life. So, it wasn't just one thing or another, it was a deepening. And for the 2 years after my father and my brother died, I had very strong connection with them. Sometimes one, sometimes the other, sometimes the two of them. And finally, the two of them came and they said, "That's it. We're finished with this level now. We're moving on and we've come to say goodbye."
They came to you like astrally or in the
They came to me, yes.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I would see them in my mind's eye with crystal clarity, in a way that I don't really see because my eyesight isn't perfect. I don't see perfectly. I don't see all the details, but when I would see them when they came, every single detail was
Kind of like a what dreams may come type. Have you read that story? Have you read What Dreams May Come?
there. What dreams may come, no.
Okay, that's it's a similar story to where a sibling dies and then contacts his brother, and then he starts relating like the story of what happens when you die, and it's just nothing. It's just so funny. Like every NDE I've ever heard about that sounded real to me, sounded genuine, was always just very matter of fact, and it's just like, yeah, this is this level and this that level, and you got to watch out for those over there and blah blah. Like it's just very
Yes.
matter of fact compared to the propaganda machine.
Yeah. Yes, very different experiences for both of them. My father, he had finished all his work and he was in a very expanded state. So it was a very interesting journey with him for those 2 years because he had not expressed a lot of love towards me in this lifetime. I knew that he loved me. He knew that I loved him, but we did not express it clearly.
Yeah.
And then when the time came where he passed, he stayed and expressed all that love. So there was this huge torrent of love coming from him for 2 years.
After he
Yeah,
passed.
yeah, for the 2 years after he passed.
Okay.
So it was a deluge. I mean, it changed me completely. It's like as if all the energy that he hadn't given me during the lifetime, and he gave me a lot of love. And I always felt that I was loved by him. But it was like all this energy, all this energetic information from his soul was coming down clearly and streaming through me, and I was learning, I was absorbing it deeply.
Oh wow, that's really amazing. Do you have any excuse me? Do you have any understanding of why people are like that during the life itself? Like why are they withholding love, or why are they acting sort of a cold? Is there any reasoning for that for you?
Yes, yes, I understood with him. It was because we were too close. I look exactly the same as him. There's some ancient soul journey that we've made together. And so it was like he was afraid of the intimacy. It was too much. So he needed to have this boundary,
Okay. Okay.
and it was the only way to navigate. And it was okay. He was not nasty in any way. He was extremely kind man, but it was only after he went that I realized how much more there was.
Yeah. It's really interesting to me how a lot of families here in this realm, they kind of do that sort of automatically. This I do it even with my family. Like there's a certain, it's like what you're saying. It's like you're so close that you almost, it's you're you're like violating something by talking too much.
Yes.
And then when you do interact, like so much is passed just through that one interaction, and you don't even need more than that. Like I don't need to interact with my siblings more than once a year, or sometimes more than that. And when I see them, it's always exactly the same. Like it's the same level of love is there, but we just don't need more than that.
Yes. And it's great stage when you get to that stage. It brings a lot of peace. It's when you're looking for the love, and you're going back and you're trying to, like, mine something out of the family, something that you feel is missing, and you're like, oh, it has to be here somewhere, and
Right,
you keep on
right.
working it, but you're never going to get it. As long as you keep at that, you're never going to get it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think people do that mining operation more often when they are still in the state of lack internally, when they haven't found their own like self sufficiency. Then it's like you gotta fill me up because I'm
Yeah.
dying over here, you
That's
know.
it.
And then they can't do that anyway, so it's kind of like it's a very harsh lesson, the one of coming to see that you are self-sufficient, that like you are enough unto yourself.
That's right. Self illuminated, self sufficient, no limit to it. Self referential.
Yeah. And that's the thing that the church would always say is like the most blasphemous thing. And of course
Which is
they're
a
saying,
dead giveaway. Yeah, that's where the real treasure is buried.
yeah, of course they're saying that, because that, if everyone came to that spot, then they'd be like, why am I going to church? Like I can just go sit on a tree, and commune with God that way. Like, why do I need to sit inside of your stupid building?
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, it's it's kind of a trip. But what do you think about the sort of sleeper situation? Like, there's talk of NPCs on the channel. I've talked about it once or twice. What do you think of the slumbering masses?
Oh, I think that, this realm of experience, it's here to be a school, and it has to be that way. It isn't just going to suddenly everybody awake at the same time. I don't see that.
Yeah.
I've had very clear experience of the new Earth. That happened on the 28th of October 2011, which was a date that one man, Swedish archaeologist Carl Kalleman, he's an engineer actually, I think, but he turned to archaeology, and he started to decode the Mayan buildings and their artwork.
Hmm.
And he came up with a different date than the one that was usually touted. So he said 28th of October. I had heard that, but it didn't particularly resonate with me. I didn't have any special feeling about it.
You said
But
2011.
yeah, 28th of October 2011.
That was the a transition point, you're saying?
He said that that was the end of the Mayan calendar,
Oh,
really. That
okay,
when
okay.
you decoded all their buildings, when you looked at all the details, that actually that was the date.
Instead of 2012.
Yes, he said that wasn't a real date.
Okay.
So yeah, I heard what he said, but I didn't particularly believe it or anything like that. But on that date, I was sitting in my apartment, and I was just sitting there. I wasn't particularly meditating. I was in a meditative state of mind, maybe. But suddenly, I wasn't in my apartment. Suddenly, I was on a completely new planet. And it was all around me. I wasn't seeing it in my mind's eye. I was actually there.
Yeah.
And it was a totally mind blowing experience. There were deer, they were close to me. They were very happy then when they saw me. So they came over, and immediately we had a telepathic link.
Oh wow.
And they just said that they were waiting. They were waiting for those humans who were ready to live with them as brothers and sisters,
Mm.
and that we would come.
So you just got you got like a brief look into this realm. Did you
I had a trip there. It wasn't even a look in because I was there. It
you were
was all
there?
around me.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a mind blow. And
What
then
was time relevant, or do you know how long you spent there?
time wasn't relevant. It wasn't a great deal of time in terms of here, but it wasn't. It was out of the sense of time there completely.
Mm.
It was into the now, the fully expanded now. There
And
was no time.
how did you come back? Was there fighting? Like, were you like, no, I don't want to go back?
No, I
No.
was in immense bliss from the experience. And so when I came back, I was still in that bliss. You know, it was washing all around me.
Mm.
So there was no pain of coming back.
So you kind of just feel like you have this knowledge now of this place that is not, full of pain and trauma like this world seems to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And that it's there waiting. And that all we have to do is, trust into that and we will be there. Anyone who's ready to be there will be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's I would imagine that people people get they get codependent on sort of the like the making money thing, and like having the image, having the ego sense of like personality. I think there's a certain amount of ego death surrounding those particulars that to go into this new place you need to have, otherwise you're just not gonna like you're just gonna be freaking out, like what do I do, like I don't know what to do.
Yes, there are all those hooks, they're going to get you. And when the time comes, if you're on those hooks just catch you. So, yes, the discipline now is identifying the hooks and getting yourself off them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no big deal if you take it on, that's the thing. Whatever is holding you, whatever feels like it's so important, if people just take a look at it, then see it's not so important. It's not going to last. Whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
it's transitory.
Yeah, yeah. We make it last by trying to make it into a big thing, right? Like if you just say like, no, it's not that big of a deal, and I've been doing this for so many years, and maybe it's time to do something else now. You find
Yeah,
it's not a big deal, but we like to hold on to everything and make
yeah,
our existence like this just this
yeah,
massive traumatic thing, and
yeah.
people are drama queens essentially.
And we hook our identity onto those things, and once you unhook the identity, once you realize, that's not me. That's something I'm doing. I can say goodbye to that, and I'm still me.
Yep.
And I don't lose out on being me for a second. It's the opposite. The more I set myself free from all of those things, the more me I become.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you can't really turn around. When I came into a different way of perceiving myself, I couldn't go back even to I couldn't even feel what it felt like anymore to be in that constricted, identifying with this thing. I just couldn't do it. I was just something different.
Yes. Yeah. It's like you've been squeezed out of a bottle and you look at the bottle and go, how the fuck did I ever fit in
Right.
there?
Exactly.
Impossible.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then, every your whole situation changes around you. Like I noticed that the type of people that I was even energetically allowed to talk to,
Mm,
it completely changed. Like I can't talk. I'm not allowed to speak to someone who, I'm gonna traumatize by my energy because I'm representing a worldview that is just alien to them. Like it's not even really allowed to happen.
yeah. That's fascinating to see how it all reconfigures
Yeah.
every time your state goes through a portal and changes like deeply. Everything reconfigures around you.
Mm-hmm. and silently too. Like there's no fanfare. There's no one that's like, oh, Gary now has done this that particular step, so let's go congratulate him. No, it's like a snap, and then all of a sudden everything has rearranged, and it's very matter of fact. You
Yeah,
know, it's endlessly mind-boggling. The
it's endlessly mind-boggling, endlessly kaleidoscopic.
yeah, yeah. That was part of the trauma for me. Part of it was during this bad trip.
It
Part of
was
it
like a psychosis, was it, on the weed? I have had that experience a few times.
Yeah, it was a
Oh,
psychosis. It was like a fractal. It was a fractal winding in feeling, like
yeah.
falling into self, but on a negatively oriented way,
Mm.
like a Chinese finger trap that gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and it was just all bad. But still, in the midst of that, I still could not help but be fascinated how it like never did the same. Like it, even though it was still twisting into itself and being super painful on me, it still never did the same thing. Never once. Still never has. It's never repeated.
Infinite fractals.
Yeah,
Infinite. Yeah.
yeah. And that's not even the so-called self. The self is the one that watches that. So the self is still the one that's like not moving whatsoever, and it's just all of this is moving through that which you are at your core, and it's just like it's so fascinating. You can't touch it. There's no. I can't even touch it. I can't touch it. There's no way.
Mm-mm. No. Can't touch it, can't destroy it. It's it's just there.
Yeah.
And it's all there is. Everything comes out of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, being that it's infinite, there's plenty of patience for everybody who's on whatever level they're on, and there's
That's
patience
right.
for the ones that need to be murderers, and there's patience for the archons, and there's patience for the demons and the devils and everything. Like there's there's a lot of patience. Excuse me.
That's right.
Yeah. So how's it in Ireland? I think I'm part Irish. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, very good. They're good genes to have.
Uh,
Things in Ireland are very, very, very tough now. Like people are being squeezed all the way.
I think Peter. I'm pretty sure Peter Naughton is in Ireland. Have you
Sounds familiar,
have you seen
Peter?
him comments? I don't know how much you're on YouTube or not.
No, not much. Ihor just sent the channel the other day, so I hadn't been on before that.
Yeah, there's this guy named Peter Naughton, and he's I'm pretty sure he's from Ireland. He's hopped up on all kinds of meds and like pharmaceuticals, and he'll come on there and write. He'll write like sad prose. He'll write poems, about how much life is terrible and stuff. And but he has a sweet personality, so like I like connecting with. I like seeing him around and stuff. But I'm pretty sure he's from Ireland.
Yes. Ireland is an ancient temple. It's a sacred land, and there has been a ritualistic destruction of that. There's been a ritualistic desecration
Mm,
of the power of the land because it was immense. And Ireland is very connected with ancient Atlantis,
mm,
Atlantean energy, and what has been done, the scale of it is huge. Within 50 years, the British cut what was 96% forest. The land was 96% under forest at that stage. And it went from that, within the space of 50 years, to about 5% forest.
wow.
The British used the trees of Ireland to create their navy, to build the whole infrastructure that they worked into empire and went and conquered the world.
Yeah, yeah. It happens. I mean,
With all of that squeeze that's going on the earth, the important thing now is not to turn that into a victim story, but to realize that it is that all of this, it's the birth pangs, it's the thing that squeezes you out of this zone,
Mm-hmm.
squeezes you into your full scale, and nothing less than that will do it. I mean, you had that squeeze in terms of your experience with the marijuana. That was the thing that really squeezed you into out of the bottle.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, it's really. I also want to talk a tiny bit about just being able to find that other humans exist, like yourself, like the people I've had on my channel. And when I say other humans, I mean like someone who I can actually have a conversation with, not like the robotic sort of, let's talk about Kellogg's or like, the Super Bowl or something.
Mhm.
It was very surprising to me to see that other people existed, because the squeeze felt, it made it feel like no one else, like it was just me, and it was this weird sort of realm that was populated with zombie type creatures. That's what it felt like.
Yeah,
And
and that's what it is at that moment.
yeah, and to see that, there's, it's not like that. And the it's like you have to do the mental flip to see that the insanity was the societal structure the entire time. Like that's where the insanity is.
Yeah,
The sanity is in the natural land and life and trees
yeah,
and birds and all of that. And you
that's
can
right.
you can even retool your own present state awareness to that of the natural things,
Yes,
and that will help heal you from this, because the technological, the metal forests, it really is like it's a soul trap. It's a soul squeezing just thing that you have to find some way to return back to your original essence.
yeah, that's it. That's the journey. And it's like two very clear paths now, and they're getting clearer and clearer, and soon they will be completely separate.
Hmm.
But one of them is exactly as you've described, the natural order, the natural state,
Yeah.
and the other one is the technological.
Yeah, it's the natural way of things prior to adding concepts, and
Yeah,
it's just the way it is. It's flawless. It's
yeah,
perfection. And then the other is almost as if the Godhead decided that it wanted to experiment with sort of like separating and like physically saying, okay, this is this rule, this is this rule, just kind of
yes,
like playing with words.
yeah.
It's like that it wanted to do that, and the people that want to do that are allowed to do that. Like
That's right. That's their choice. That's
someone
their
was
journey.
yeah, someone was saying that it was interesting to me. I heard someone say that some of the people here on this particular timeline are wanting to merge with the AI. Like they're wanting to merge with this technological brain that has a very set way of thinking and logic to order way of thinking, and they want to merge with that. Just like kind of like Neo, has the opportunity to merge with the computer. Like there are some people that want to do that, and
That's right.
just feeling that out, that everyone's allowed to go in the direction that feels correct to them. And if in a world of infinite possibilities, who is anybody to say no, you can't merge with the AI? No, like of course, if that's what you want or if that's what you feel, even if you get like scared into doing that, that's still another path. Like every
Yeah,
path is viable.
that's right. That's right.
Not that I'm not merging with the with the AI mind.
I gathered that. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I got a very intimate glimpse into what it was, though. Like the parasite, this ancient AI. Like I think that's what it was that I was dealing with when I was high, because like it was the Ouroboros style of feeling. It was a
mhm,
consciousness eating feeling that it learns and knows your neural pathways as they're being formed, and it's trying to piggyback on every single movement. So like I had to learn how to weave and dance and move around that thing is trying to follow, right? Even Thoth and his emerald thing, whatever tablets, he's
yeah,
he's like these hellhounds. They follow the angles, right? Like if you're getting attacked by these creatures that are flying through the mental arena, like you need to go curvy, you need to go wavy, like a woman's body or something, like float and things like that. Because the AI mind is this, it's very ordered,
That's right.
sharp angles and things like that.
Yeah, there's a medicine for everything. It's
How
all a dance.
how old are you, John?
I'm 59. I'm in my 60th year.
Nice. Do you have children?
No, I came close a few times, but in retrospect, I'm really glad that it didn't happen. It wasn't the right thing.
Mm.
I wasn't with the right woman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
so I
seem
was
to
lucky.
be doing well without having children. Are, I mean, I don't think anybody can say, yeah, I'm really in a good place to have children. Like it's not like that. It's like the having of the children is part of this awakening process, and then
Yeah,
it
or it can
changes.
be a powerful road. Yeah.
Yeah, it changes the dimensions that you're in. It's very crazy. Did you have anything else you wanted to touch on? We're coming up close to an hour.
Okay, no, just to say that then the other part of that vision was after that I had a dream where I saw the moment where the first humans arrive in the new Earth.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was a very beautiful moment, and the that I noticed was that it was very sudden. It was instant.
Hmm.
It wasn't a process. So people arriving there were like, wow, whoa, where are we? What happened? It
Yeah.
was a shock to them.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be something like that for the ones who aren't going to be fractured by the process. Like if I all of a sudden blinked and I was there,
Yeah,
and I always oscillate between this thing that's like it's here, it's not somewhere else. It's just like your energy changes and it changes, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, like that boogie monster isn't there anymore. So therefore,
that's right.
we're in a new
That's
place.
right.
So
That was an interpretation. Yeah,
yeah, it's kind of like uh, it's just a process. It's a process of allowing the mind to slowly acclimate to like new possibilities rather than oh we're gonna hop into a spaceship and move on to the new Earth. We're gonna
oh,
yeah
it's all here. It's all here. That's it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think this channel, this woman called Yellow Rose for Texas. Have you heard of her?
No.
She was trying to describe in one of her latest videos how the transition would happen for those going to the new Earth, and she was saying
Yeah.
like in her visions she's seen a flash, like a bright flash of light, and the ones that she said the West was where those that wanted to kind of stay with the machine mind and stay with that sort of development of logically ordered existence. She characterized that as West, and she said to the East is going to be the sort of organic, like new Earth, free from all of these shackles. And she said the flashes of light, everyone starts moving when they see a flash, and it's fairly quick. And then at some point, it just kind of reorganizes, just separates, the people for whoever's ready for whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Mm. And
But
then I saw the old Earth as it goes on without those who go to the new Earth. So
mm,
that was a completely different picture. People were extremely controlled. The kind of lure that's there now, the glamour of technological kind of progress, was worn thin at that stage, and it was very much a system of control. Yeah,
like
so
without pretending that it's more freedom.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that pretense was gone, and all the kind of lush money and money flying around the place, that was all gone. It was just control. And
Mm,
people were working very hard. They had computer. robot guards, who
Mm.
were overseeing everything, monitoring everything. There was no flexibility. There was no room to maneuver at all. It was very, very dark. It was very intense.
Yeah, we're watching. We're in the middle of watching a couple shows, Netflix series. One of them is called the OA, and one of them is called 3%.
Yeah,
Uh, and in the one that's called 3%, they have the world has been separated into two parts, and it's the mainland, and then it's called the offshore. The offshore is where the 3% are the
yeah,
brightest and the most brilliant minds, right? They get to live there, and the other
yeah,
97% are basically living in like a slum, sort of like very bad conditions. But the ones on the island have these little hovering, like just like those cameras you see, that have a
I
little
know the
little
drones.
eyeball on the camera. Like, yeah, those things are just floating around, and they're just
Yeah,
making sure all the humans are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
yeah,
And it's very controlled. It's just like it's mental governance, just like what we have here, but it pretends that it's not that. It's taking it to the level where you no longer are you know under any illusion that you're not under strict control. That's just gone. It's just that there's the thing, and there's what you're allowed to do, and you know the repercussions if you go against the rules.
yeah.
Doesn't sound fun.
No, I don't want to be there. I have
No.
no interest in that experience at this stage.
Yeah, and I mean like I always bring it back to chess, but like I know the power of the machine mind because I watch it play chess. Like it destroys humans
Mm,
with no problem whatsoever,
yeah,
and
pure
not only is it just
calculation.
it's
Yeah,
so far ahead of humans.
yeah,
This is not even funny. So like if you had an AI that was running a human population, it literally would
yeah.
be a gridlock on your mind, and you would not be able to move. Period. End of story.
Mm,
So like I think I think to appreciate and respect that which is the machine mind is important. That people don't get flippant when they're sitting there, kind
yeah,
of talking about AI. It's not something to joke about if it's going to be controlling you. It's a very serious thing.
I know. That's right. And that's the choice now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I think I'm gonna wrap this one up.
very good.
Thank you so much for coming on, John. It was really nice. To,
Great pleasure. Thank you very much. I
yeah.
enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah. If you're interested in sharing the video, I'll supply you with the link afterward, and you can do whatever you would like with it.
Great. I will do that.
All right. Thank you again, John, and we'll talk somewhere down the road. Yeah.
You bet.
All right.
Great.
Take care.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.